Kids born to teen moms, how different is your life compared to other kids? My mother resented me and the freedom I had as a teen and young adult. I got to do and experience so many things she didn't get to by choice. On her side, I come from a long line of teen moms, but I didn't make that mistake. I was 27 when my daughter was born. And my daughter is almost 22 and no kids yet, so the cycle is broken on our branch at least. Jesus Christ, dude, you hit the nail on the head with this one. My mother never wanted me to succeed out of pure jealousy. And would sometimes go to great extents to stop me from succeeding at something. When friends would come over for the first time growing up, I'd get a lot of, "I didn't know you had an older sister." Double quote. I don't. That's my mother. Also, since my mom and I are only 16 years apart, we ended up liking a lot of the same music, which made going to concerts a lot easier, because we'd often wanna go to the same shows. So, I've definitely seen a lot more bands than friends. Parents still trying to grow up and learn life lessons 10 years later because they never really had the chance to while raising you. It's kinda cool though, cause then if you're aware enough you also pick up on it. My parents weren't teenagers when they had me and my sister, but they were not ready to be parents. It's wild now that I'm a grown-ass adult and my dad now has a 5-year-old. Now that he's ready and in a great relationship, he's doing a fantastic job. Sometimes I'm sad that my little brother is gonna have a relationship that I'll never get. But conversely, I'll get to be someone for him that I never had, so it'll all work out. One of my friends has a teen mom. She doesn't talk about it too much, but she says that it's nice how all family members, great grandparents, are still alive. That threw me off so much. My parents had me at 40 and their parents had them around 30, so by the time I was born I already was one grandparent down and it only took a few years for the next to go. Now at the age of 22 I have none. Meanwhile my BF, whose family all have had children around 18, and his great grandparents are still alive and he goes on trips with his grandparents. Mom had me when she was 16 and dad was 20. I got to meet 2 great grandparents who were born in the late 1800s and one born in 1910 to 1920. I can't really remember one of them, but the other 2 I do. The youngest one was creepy AF. She practiced Appalachian folk magic. One of my great grandparents lived until I was in my 20s. The crazy part is one of my cousins had a kid before then. So this kid got to meet his great grandmother. They have a photo of 5 generations alive together. My parents got married when they found out my mom was pregnant at 16. She had me her senior year at 17. And both still managed to work their way through college with me in tow. It was honestly pretty annoying. They liked to party a lot with their friends, which got annoying quick, having a bunch of 30-somethings getting drunk and listening to loud music when I had to be up early. My mom enjoyed the attention of being mistaken for my sister, but it felt gross because she was the hot mom to all my guy friends growing up and I never heard the end of it. My dad wasn't really interested in doing dad things until they had my sister in their mid-20s. Found out a year ago thanks to 23andMe that my dad's not my biological father. Apparently my mom slept around a lot in high school. Found my bio dad, which uncovered a huge conspiracy of lies and batshit insanity that honestly deserves its own post. Teenagers are f***ing stupid. Edit. Since some people were asking, I went into further detail about the story below. My mother resented me. Still does actually. But it's lessened over the years. It was apparently my fault she missed her teen years. So she dropped me off at a relative's in another state when I was a toddler and hitchhiked around the country for a year. As I grew up I was screamed at and beaten for looking like my biological father. She didn't trust me a bit because of it. I had to get permission to step outside to get the mail. Couldn't bathe myself until I was a teenager. Couldn't do homework with others. I don't think it has ever occurred to her I'm not guilty of anything. But in her eyes, being my father's daughter is enough. I was a teen mom. I asked my 16-year-old what differences he saw from himself and friends, and his response was not much difference other than we are more likely to like the same music. Plus, since he never lived the other side, it's kinda hard to really know what is different. Unless you also have a kid right now. My mom was 18. So my aunt and uncle are only 10 years older than me. My uncle is 6 years. So I got to do all kinda of rad stuff with my aunt and uncle, like skateboarding, surfing, snowboarding. They were and are more like a brother and sister. Real dad is a pose. My mom fell in love at 20 with a 40-year-old. They are still together 38 years later. Raised me like his own. He had 5 other kids. So I had all kinds of brothers and sisters, and TBH a better life than if my real dad stuck around. I've noticed that I didn't have the same opportunities as other kids because being a teen mom can lead you down a road of struggle and poverty if you don't have help from family. I've always wanted to play sports, but she could never afford the equipment needed at school to be a part of it. Mentally, I've had to mature faster at a young age because she was still a kid herself. It's unnerving to think teachers would tell me I seemed older than my age at 10 years old. My mom is 15 years older than me and has banged 7 of my friends throughout my life. 4 when I was still in high school. Other than that, I think I became mature than her when I was 12. I took care of my 3 siblings. Did the cooking, cleaning, got them to school. Hell, I started working 40 hours a week at 14 so my siblings could have some sort of a normal childhood, get clothes, school supplies. I even took them go-karting on each of their birthdays. Those are some of my favorite memories. Overall, I think that my childhood sucked. I never got to be a kid. I don't think anyone should have kids before they are mature enough to handle one. And teen moms should have a lot of oversight by CPS. Edit. Giving more context. This was in a small town in the 80s. My siblings and I are doing pretty well nowadays. Sometimes I think my mom's life would have been better if I wasn't born, or at least born when she was an adult. I went into a deep depression over this realization. My mom probably would have been happier if I'd never been born. But I eventually realized that even though my mom would have been happier, I'm not responsible for her happiness. She's gotta make her own choices and live her own life. Me and my partner, gay couple, raised his niece's son from 6 months to 18. She was so immature when she had him at 16. She decided to feed him less so he would not use up so many diapers. Bad move. He calls us Dad and Papa. Calls his mom Kathy. He is now 26. Love him dearly. I was a teen mom. Late teens but still young, and more often than not people assume that the kids are my siblings. Now that I'm a bit older and have a couple, it's less so. It is scary to think I could be a grandparent at 40 though, haha. My kids are still young, so as they get older I'll make sure I take into account their feelings about how they feel about having a young mom. It's funny to hear everyone saying that people thought their teen parent was their sibling. When I was a teenager I would take my little sister, 10 years apart, places and people would give me dirty looks or ask me about my daughter, haha. Mom was 17 when I was born. 22 when I went to kindergarten. 28 when I went to middle school. 32 when I graduated high school. 35 when I had my first kid. That kid is 35 and just had his first kid. I'd say he's broken the cycle. This is so trippy. So your mom was 35 when she became a grandma, since you had a kid. And your kid, aka your mom's grandson, is 35 and has his own kid, which is your grandson. So your mom is only 70 years old and is a great grandma to your grandson. Whoa. I'm an early 2000s baby. My mom really liked emo music when I was little. So I considered myself emo at 6. I remember sitting in the backseat of my mom's 4Runner and listening to mindless self-indulgence. MCR. Blink 182. American Football. Fall Out Boy. Taking Back Sunday. And all the late 90s early 2000s emo music. I got to watch a lot of 90s cartoons along with 2000s stuff because it was what my mom watched. And we always had fun sitting on the couch watching TV. I had a really good childhood. Me and my mom were always friends. She is great mom. And I always look up to her for being a badass young single mom who raised me alone. probably have hotter moms. The age difference between me and my brother is 22 years. 23 for my sisters. I also know people my age with children the same age as my siblings, so it's a bit weird. Pros. I know my great grandma. Cons. I don't know my parents. Lesson to take out of this. Don't have children as a teenager. Parents constantly work to make a living. I also never experienced such gifts as a car for my birthday or anything like that. My parents are hardworking and are always trying to grow financially. It shocked me knowing they were getting hit hard by society. In a sense of money, adulting, etc. So it shocked me knowing all of that was happening at the same time I was in elementary. Very loving though. They taught me how to be a hard worker and not be materialistic. My mom ended up having 7 kids by 3 different dads and she's not even 45. She's never had a relationship with a guy that didn't involve her getting pregnant immediately, and despite being second oldest, I have no personal mother-daughter relationship with her. She started at 16. Teenagers aren't known for their great decisions. My mom wasn't a teen when she had me, but she started having children when she was 14 and was basically pregnant every other year. I was her 6th child at 25 and she had 11 children in total. She doesn't remember or know exactly who my biological father is, lol, so yeah. My mom gets mistaken for my sister more than the average mother would. People are always surprised she has a 20-year-old. And believe it or not, we have completely different tastes in music. My mom also gets mistaken for my sister all the time. Most of the time it was by school friends or teachers when they first met her. Most recent one was yesterday. A friend saw my graduation photo and said she didn't realize I had a sister. My sister was a teen when she had my oldest nephew. He is, by far, the most level-headed and mature out of his siblings. Sadly, I think it's largely because he had to grow up faster than they did. Due to feeling an obligation to take care of his mom. Let's just say she wasn't well suited to being a teen mom. He's in his mid-20s now, and while his younger siblings still struggle to find their footing in life, he's turned out to be an incredibly fine man. Married an awesome woman. Is an ex-Marine and currently runs a very successful business. I couldn't be prouder. How much of a teen we talking? My mom was 18 when I was born. From how she sees it, we grew up together. My being born forced her to grow up, which had its ups and downs. I am sure she resents missing out on her softball scholarships because she got pregnant, but now she has 4 of us. Not a kid anymore, but my parents were 17 and 18 when I was born. Now in my 40s. My parents are just over 60 and still healthy. My parents have been active my whole life and WEUG while I was a kid. It makes for some low budget experiences as a kid, but at the same time the parents were engaged and able to keep up. I was growing up at the same time my mom and all of my aunts and uncles were. On a more obvious day-to-day note, I was at home on my own making stovetop spaghettios at 5 years old. So I would probably say I have needed to be more mature, independent, and more okay with a majority of things not going my way than a lot of the people I know. I don't really get along with people my age because of that. It was bad. They were horrible trash humans that messed me up pretty bad. I was shuffled from house to house to house and didn't find a stable home until I was a teenager, and that was with grandparents. I have trust issues. Abandonment issues. But in other areas of my life I'm successful. I did amazing in school because it was my safe place. I became a teacher. I'm married and have 2 kids, both of whom I was married while having and out of college. Teen parents, no money. They hated each other. Hated me as a result. Didn't have any idea how to raise a child. Now I'm super f-ked up and ashamed of my own existence, to the point that shame is the controlling emotion of my life and everything I do seems to be based in some sort of guilt or shame. I feel guilty that I exist and it's f-king killing me, man. Parents were 18 when they had me. I got lucky. They loved each other and are still together today. Almost 32 years later. I had a great home life with great parents. That being said, I had to put up with a relentless onslaught of MILF jokes starting at age 13ish. Even had a teacher say something along the lines of, "Damn tight eye the fire guy. Your mom is smoking hot. She single?" After a parent-teacher conference night. In middle school. In front of the class. I was born in the 70s to a 18-year-old mother. I wouldn't recommend it. Most teenage parents don't want to be parents. Parents need to be able to teach their life experiences to their kids. Teenagers and people in their early 20s don't know enough to do this effectively. I had my first kid at 35 and both my kids were planned. One of my roommates was born to a teen mom. And I was born to an older mom. She was almost 40. For the most part it's pretty normal. But every once in a while something will come up like the MT St. Helens eruption. Where my roommate will say, "Yeah, my mom remembers that happening when she was a kid," and I'll be like, "My mom was in college." When I get older, my friends will go after my mom instead of my sister. Double quote. Said no one ever. Teen moms are automatically attractive because they are young. More likely they're struggling to make money. Are massively overwhelmed and maybe even a bit depressed. Having a kid is no joke. At any age. But it's especially difficult for people who didn't prepare or are too young to be prepared. So stop highlighting the issue. I have a lot younger siblings from my dad, and the difference between how I see how they are growing up to how I grew up is so different, and that's with one same parent. I think I had to grow up a lot earlier, and I always say my mom raised me to be 40. My siblings are definitely kids, teenagers, whereas I needed to really take care of myself for the most part because my mom was in school and working full time, or with my dad. He had way younger kids he needed to take care of. I like that I had young parents because I think it's made me a pretty well-rounded adult. Even though having a lot of responsibility as a kid was tough. My mom and I started having to deal with the same type of problems at the same time when I became independent and wasn't always next to her. Caused for a different type of understanding between us. For the past few years we've been more of equals than her being an authority. Mum was 17 when she had me. I'm 43 this year. My life now is epic. I saw how things were growing up and did not want that life at all. No thank you. Money was tight. Had no holidays. Sometimes no money for food. Mum and dad split up, which was horrific. So got a good education. Married a nice girl. Had first child at 39. Financially secure and pretty happy. My parents were 15 when I was born. They were married at 16 and stayed together till my mom passed from cancer at 58. My parents had one of the all-time great love stories. They both had to quit high school. My mom to raise me. My dad to work. I never had to know how hard they worked to provide for my little sister and I. But at the same time I gained an unbelievable work ethic from them. My teenage rebellion included a lot of pot smoking, but always keeping my job. If not actually graduating high school. My mom went and signed me up to get my GED. Never giving up. My father was able to retire to take care of my mom when she got sick. My parents are highly respected in our community and people still talk about how much they love my mother. I will be able to retire in 6 years thanks to the work ethic instilled in me by my parents. Don't let bullshit keep you down. According to statistics, my father should have left, my mother should have had my sister and I taken away instead of having a great life. My mother had me at 17. She was a stripper off and on until her mid-30s. She was physically and mentally abusive and also moved me to a new school every single year of my life. Including high school. Luckily, I broke the cycle and am about to graduate college in the spring. I am estranged from her. And could never hurt a fly. I was 19 when I was born. My early childhood was me being left with anyone. Anywhere when I wasn't just left completely alone. I remember being 3-4 years old just running around in the woods alone. Going into anyone's house and just hanging out. This stopped when my mom married when I was 10. My stepfather, who later adopted me, was extremely strict. She started beating me at 9 and continued until I got bigger than her a few years later. One of my proudest childhood memories was sitting on her to keep her off my younger brothers. My dad beat me until I got married at 19. I got locked out, called a whore, and worse, denied opportunities because my mother, she never got to. They refused to help me fill out my student loan applications or give me the information to do so. I resent the hell out of my parents and have raised my kids completely differently. My mom was really not ready to have kids, and luckily I think me and my older brother turned out okay. People do ask my brother if she's my mom's husband though, which I find funny. Also, I feel like I can actually connect with my mom and talk with her almost like a young adult. My life doesn't really feel that different compared to other people's, but I do sometimes see other parents and I'm like, damn, your parents are old. But that's cause they're normal. Oh man. Loaded question. My mom was a teen mom, and I was her second. Guess times were different way back when. Typical late 70s early 80s stereotype. Dad piece of shit dipped yada yada. But I lucked out. My mom was awesome. We never knew we were dirt poor. My childhood seemed normal and fun. Government cheese can sometimes make the best grilled cheese. Life changed. Stepdad is awesome. She's a stay-at-home grandma now and works part-time. All the kids are college graduates. Not rich. Just not fine. But man, I'm lucky by all accounts. Should have been some BS drunk statistic. I'm a teen mom myself, and these stories are the reason why I grew the FCK up real quick. I was happy to become a mother and my now husband joined the army to support us. Today's our 10-year anniversary. We both have very good jobs. He's in law school and we're about to buy our first home. We worked our ass off to get where we are today and I don't regret being a teen mom. Matter of fact, I'll be in the Bahamas sipping drinks in my 30s while my kids are in college. Cheers to the bitches that scolded me for being a teen mom. They're changing diapers and making bottles at 2 AM while I'm cozy in my bed. I went through all that as a child, but I wasn't going to let it prevent me from being a great mother. I got pregnant and I accepted it.